Okay, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to tonight's program this evening with Sayville Library. My name is Jonathan Pryor. I'm the head of community outreach here at the library, and it is my privilege to welcome Sayville Fire Department with us this evening and Chief Walter Rutlinger as he shares with us the topic of hurricane preparedness. It's something that many of us have lived through multiple times if you've spent enough time living on Long Island, but honestly, each one seems to get worse and worse over time. And it's just always good to go back there and make sure that you've got your list of things that you need to have set aside. And so this way you're prepared ahead of time and you're not one of those folks running to the store at the last minute to shelves that are empty. So without further delay, I'd like to welcome Sayville Fire Department and thank them for cooperating with us and partnering with us this evening here at the library to do a talk on hurricane preparedness. So welcome, Chief Rutlinger. I will turn the presentation over to you and let you take off from here.
Okay, thank you very much, Jonathan. Hello, everybody. Like Jonathan said, my name is Walter Rutlinger. I'm currently the chief of the Sayville Fire Department. I've been a volunteer firefighter for 21 years here in Sayville. I'm completing my term in a couple of months as the chief. I'll get to go back to being just a regular firefighter after that, after a long term as an officer. And Jonathan reached out to the chief's office of the fire department a few months ago to maybe come up with a class or a discussion on preparations for hurricanes. It is a common occurrence, and it's becoming more common as the years go by. One of the benefits of living in the climate in the area we live in is hurricanes are predictable when they are able to be told when they're going to hit us. It's not like we live in Tornado Alley where you might get a few minutes. We tend to have days and or maybe weeks to know and get prepared for any potential storms and things that may come about with these storms. So I have a quick PowerPoint. I'm not a big fan of death by PowerPoint, but I'll do some talking points. I'm going to share my screen if I can figure out this fandangled technology. And here we go. I should do this, and it should be popping up now once I hit share. Okay, we should be seeing our hurricane preparedness PowerPoint.
Perfect.
It's only a handful of slides, but I'll try to talk on some points on each slide. And if anybody has any questions, just unmute and just chime in and stop me, and we can go into if I have any more questions or if you think I missed something or you have anything you want to talk about else. Okay, we'll go on to the next one here. Let's see. All right. Uh-oh, the weatherman said there's a hurricane coming. What do we do now? Okay, the biggest thing we have to our benefit is in today's society, especially now, we have lots of information at our fingertips with our cell phones, with our computers, with our TV channels. There's 100 channels. Not what, 20 years ago, there was maybe 20. So we have 100 channels out there, and each one has these weather experts, and there's dedicated cable vision channels that are only on the weather. So let's pay attention. Listen to what they say. They're going to give you lots of predictions. And again, try to utilize the best you can and be prepared and listen and don't be caught by surprise, because these storms, these hurricanes, they come up and sometimes they can be the track changes and it'll come back and they'll say, all right, now we're going to have a potential of a heavy storm or a light storm. And that can determine how much you want to go out and try to prepare for it. So these are things that you want to look at. And again, I would wish I had these guys' jobs, because it's the only job out there that you can be right half of the time and still get paid. So the weathermen are out there, and we can look at them and listen to them. And here we go. And the next one is, what do I do now? Okay, first things first, plan for the worst and hope for the best. We plan for the extended times without power, because we know that PSE&G, they do their best, but it can be weeks without power if a bad storm comes in. It doesn't even have to be a hurricane. It was very evident a couple months ago when we had that big cluster of storms come through. It was a very quick, fast, powerful storm. And there were many people in our towns in Sayville. The South Shore of Long Island was hit very hard, especially the South Shore in the town of Islip, East Islip, Sayville, West Sayville, Bayport. they were we were pounded pretty good. And for weeks, some areas didn't have power. So these are things you want to have in your home. Have extra batteries for your battery powered flashlights, those battery powered lanterns. They are very good. You want to have them there and ready and tested before the storm hits. You don't want to be running around in the dark trying to find that flashlight or extra batteries. So you want to make sure. Charge your phones and devices and have extra charges available. Um, Very important. Again, everybody lives off of their cell phones, and until you don't have power for a couple of days and your cell phones start dying, and all of a sudden everybody starts panicking because we might not have power, you might not be able to. So they try to plan ahead and charge your phones and the devices, things that you might need to communicate, because many houses don't even have landline phone lines anymore. They went straight on their self service. These are important things to keep in mind. And you can't go back and just dial the phones. You need to have that phone charged. Bread and milk apparently saves everything during a storm, whether it be a hurricane or a snowstorm or any type of weather. You go to the supermarket and everybody's doing the hurry up 600, Indianapolis 600, going down the milk aisle, trying to get the milk and the bread. So that's what they apparently want to make sure you have that, because I don't know, you can make a lot of things with milk and bread apparently. But in all joking aside, you want to make sure you have some food that's non-perishables, things that you can easily cook or prepare if you don't have power, if you don't have gas, if you don't have a utility that you might need to make eat a can of ramen noodle that you heat up on a camping stove, things like that that you want to make sure that you have. If you're in a flood zone and you know you're in a flood zone, especially in the southern part of town, if you live south of Montauk Highway, it rains hard and we get water down there. High water in basements, high water in the streets. It doesn't have to be a major storm, but again, be aware of the flood zones and the different levels that the water is potentially going to make it to. If we have a class 3 direct hit hurricane in the South Shore of Sayville, it's a direct hit. We very rarely get direct hits on southern South Shore, Long Island. But if we get a class 3 direct hit, the water level has the potential to be coming now at Montauk Highway. So keep that in mind. If you live south of Montauk, you might have waterfront property and you might have to plan ahead, and it can come into play. A lot of those homes already have sump pumps and things that are constantly running already in their basement that they rely on to keep the water level down and not flood their basement out. Now, if we lose power for an extended amount of time, those sump pumps aren't running, water's going to come in your basement. And these are things that you might want to plan ahead. Lift up some of those belongings and the keepsakes. Make sure they're elevated in the basement and they're not on the floor directly. If you're, again, you can go onto suffolkcounty.gov or Islip Town's website, isliptown.gov. You go in their websites, they have the maps in their emergency prep part of the website. They have the flood zone maps of Long Island that were put out, so you can see where the flood zones are in your town and where you live. If you are in that flood zone and we're calling for a major storm to hit, have a plan, because that water level starts coming up. Keep in mind that the fire department, if it's too dangerous for you to go outside and travel, it's too dangerous for the fire department to go out and travel to get to you. These are some of the concerns we have. Again, we have weeks of preparation. If they're saying, if you're in this flood zone, you don't want to be down there and the storm's really going to be bad, tend to listen to them. These joke around and say they're only right half the time, but I'd rather be right half the time and be safe than be stuck somewhere where we might not be able to get to you with the fire department. We have apparatus and we have procedures in, but once there's a sustained wind of over, I believe it's 65 miles per hour, our apparatus cannot leave the garage. That's a sustained wind, not gusts. But because that can tip over a fire truck. Ambulances are a little bit less. So keep that in mind. They're a little bit boxier and they're larger on the side. They have like a sail. So if there's a sustained wind of 50, 60 mile an hour winds, we might not be able to get them to you to help you. So these are things to keep in mind. And again, plan ahead, have an exit strategy. Always try to prepare and think ahead. If I have to get out of here, how am I going to do it? I'm not going to wait until my whole street's underwater and I can't drive my car out of it. Might be a little bit too late at that point, and you can be in a really bad way. So these are things that we try, and we will make every attempt to get out and help people. I'm not saying that's any different, but sometimes we can't. I mean, if you look in the history with Sandy, there was areas luckily Sayville wasn't hit as bad as some other areas, but during, I believe it was Lindenhurst, the village of Lindenhurst in South Lindenhurst, they had a lot of difficult times getting to some of the people to try to evacuate them. They had the National Guard in from Bayshore all the way west to Nassau County on that South Shore during Sandy, and they were going in trying to pull people out. These are not only putting the rescuers at risk. You don't want to go in the middle of a hurricane in the back of a National Guard uh, big army truck. It's not comfortable. It's not safe to really. You're not buckled in a nice, comfy car. It's not something you really want to experience. So, if you need to get out, try to plan ahead and do so. Don't potentially put yourself at risk that you don't need to. Again, don't go outside if you don't have to during the storm. They all say it and we all joke, but there's debris flying around, garbage cans, street signs, trees. Um, it doesn't take much, especially on the sandy soils that we have in our town and our area, to knock trees down. And they can become very dangerous. They can not only just hit a house, they can hit you and hurt your people that you love and that you're trying to just be outside and take a nice picture. Might not be a great idea. Don't try to go down to the water and take photos of the big surf out at Land's End. Um, go online and look at the videos that way. Try to stay in your houses during the storm. Hey, there's no lights. How about the candles? Okay, we lost power. What do we do now? One of the largest and biggest causes of accidental house fires is unattended candles. Um, you can ask my wife. I yell at her all the time for having candles in the house. I do not like them. My father was a volunteer fireman. He didn't like them when I was growing up. They sell very cheap, and you can buy them on Amazon or any hardware store we have around. Battery-powered lanterns, flashlights, little tea lights, the little battery-powered the fake candle lights. You put those and then put a water bottle on top of it or a milk jug filled with water, and it actually acts like a lantern. That's a good tip I've seen, and it's a cheap alternative. But battery-powered, and you want to make sure they work. Like I said, try them out before you need them. Better to look at it than for it. That's one of the things we always, the terms we use in the fire department. I would rather look at something than look for something. So if I plan and prepare and make sure I have as much as I can, and then I don't need it, that's okay. That's the attitude I tend to have with my department, and that's what we like to do, because we do need, again, when you need it, you don't want to look for it. You want to be able to have it right there with you. So all these resources, these batteries, powers, know where they are. Don't just buy them, throw them in the cabinet, and then forget where they are. Know where you put them. Have a good dedicated area, and maybe even label it if you need to. Emergency kit, lanterns, or flashlights are in here because, again, it's dark. You don't want to be looking for it. And it could be a difference of you being safe or not safe inside your own home at that point. Something else I'd like to bring up that we actually saw a lot of that I hadn't seen before during that last storm where we had a lot of power outages. Some people after Sandy had generators installed at their houses, natural gas powered or propane powered generators, full home generators. They had them installed through permits and professionally, but they never really had the chance to run for a long period of time. And some of the houses were getting carbon monoxide from the running generator. Anytime you have a fuel, what they call a fuel fired appliance, anything that uses a fuel, propane, natural gas, gasoline, diesel fuel that burns, or a motor that runs, you're going to have the potential for carbon monoxide. You do not put a generator running inside your house, not in your basement, not in your garage. By code, by safety, and by the manufacturer recommendations, it should be at least 15 feet away from your home, at least 15 feet away from any windows or vents or things that might be in your home. You want to make sure, if you do have them, the portable generators, the whole house generators on the racks that you can roll in, they work great. You don't want them inside your house. You don't want them right next to the window. If you do have one running and you do have one of these old whole home generators, or even one that's temporary that you borrowed from your buddy down the block, you're going to want to make sure that your carbon monoxide detectors are installed in your house and working, because carbon monoxide is the silent killer. You won't smell it, you don't know it, you don't see it until you can start to feel lightheaded, and the symptoms come on very quickly. And prolonged exposure can be deadly very commonly, unfortunately. So you want to make sure your carbon monoxide detectors are installed in your home if you have any type of these appliances or running, or generators running. And again, leave them outside. Be careful with the extension cords off of these full home generators that are not wired directly to your house. If you are using them, you don't want to put one dollar store extension cord from that generator into your house, have a multi-plug put into that, and then have your refrigerator, air conditioners, your heaters, or whatever plugged into it. Then that can overpower and overheat those extension cords. You want a good extension cord. Only try to use one appliance or one thing to each plug. You do not want to use a multi-plugs or a non-fused multi-plug or extender onto your extension cords. And you want a good, decent one. You don't want to use those cheap household ones they might be good for a little reading lamp, but they're not good for any type of major appliance that needs a high amperage, because that tends to build up heat, which then can cause fires. These are some things, and normal, you don't want to plug extension cords into refrigerators. They should go right to a fused outlet anyway. But if you have to, you want to make sure it's a heavy duty fused extension cord. Again, available on Amazon or any of the major, any of our local stores. Drawing a blank. Local hardware stores. They will all have a good recommended, and there's some suggestions again on many websites, and lots of information out there on the web. Especially, you can go on different websites and try to find out what's the best extension cord to use for in case of an emergency, or hooked up to a generator. And there's recommendations on there. You just type that into Google and it works out beautifully. All right, we go. Medication, something that's often overlooked. If you know there's a storm coming and you take, like myself, I take blood pressure medication. If I need to have that blood pressure medication and I know there's a hurricane coming, I might not be able to get to the store. I might not be able to get to the pharmacy or the doctor's office to get that meds. So I want to make sure that I have a good supply, roughly around 2 weeks supply, if not more, that I know I have ready to go. That if I can't get to the pharmacy or the doctor, I have those important medications. I also need want to look at anybody that might take medications that require refrigeration. These are some concerns you might want to take into play. If you have a vital medication that needs to be refrigerated, and you lose power and you don't have a refrigerator, make sure you have a cooler with ice or some type of a generator that's outside that can power a temporary small fridge or something to keep those medications in the proper temperatures. If you do have, again, you might not be able to get out of your house or even to a doctor or a pharmacist. And even if you can, some of those pharmacies might not have the medication you need. They might be delayed deliveries, and the whole, we live on an island. Again, it doesn't take much. We know that every day going on the road. If you're driving on the LIE and there's an accident, or the Sunrise Highway and there's an accident at the merge, it only takes one accident to clog the whole highway up, and it takes 3 hours to get 15 feet. Now, think about trees and power outages and things like that on a major incident. It's going to be very difficult to move around for quite a while. So you want to make sure you don't have to go out for those things. You want to make sure that you have them before the storm. Again, pets. They are relying on us. We all love our pets. So we all want to make sure that they have the best care. Do we have enough pet food, dog food, cat food, whatever, rabbit food, horse food, whatever we have as our pet? Do we have enough supplies for that pet for a period of time that, again, we might not be able to get to the supermarket. The supermarket might be out of power or might have had a tree fall through the top of it and we can't get to it. No, our pet food, we don't have enough. Before the storm, prepare, make sure that you have enough food, supplies that you might need for the pet. Again, depending on what kind of yard you have or pet or whatever, if you even have them, these are the important things you want to look at. They can't take care of themselves. They rely on us. So as a responsible owner of a pet, you want to make sure that you can take them out and have an area to go. If it's a hurricane and there's trees down or whatnot, you might want to get those wee pads and during the storm that they can go inside rather than trying to let them out in the yard and be in danger that way. These are just some tips and tricks maybe you want to look at. Again, ASPCA website, I'm sure they have some wonderful resources to look at for pet owners to get ideas. And again, Petco or whatever our local pet stores, they have these things you want to get to beforehand, before the storm, and make sure that you have enough of it. Again, go to the vet, call your vet. If you have pets that need medication, like my bulldog needs pills, you want to make sure you have enough pills for the dog. You don't have to go rush out right after a storm. They can't get into the veterinarian might not be able to have his staff get to the office because of the storm. We don't know. We have to prepare for it and think ahead and make sure that that's good to go. Again, in times of chaos and emergency, common sense is not very easy to find. I say this because during every incident, again, my short time as a fireman, like 21 years, people do silly things. I'll try to word it that way. Especially when they're scared, especially when they're in situations they're not used to. You see the people just in the middle of a snowstorm start driving 90 miles an hour down Sunrise Highway because they have four-wheel drive and they got to get to their Pilates class or whatnot. Just because you can go doesn't mean you can stop. The roads are icy. Roads can be slick, dark, trees down that you don't see. When you lose power on some of our streets, especially here in Sayville, at night, and there's no power or street lights lit, you can't see things very far. And you can be driving down the road like you do every other time, and then all of a sudden there's a 60-foot oak tree in the middle of the road. You can't stop. It happens. It happened quite a lot in the last rainstorm in the cluster we had, and it's dangerous. It's not just for you as a homeowner or someone on the road, but for the first responders as well. We might not see people, especially with wires down. Every time we see a wire down, you treat it as if it's a live wire. You do not touch. You do not want to go near. Anybody who tells you that just because a wire is touching a tree or a tree's leaning on wires, that wood doesn't conduct electricity, it does, especially when it's on those primary lines, and it will burn through. The electricity burns through, and it will find the ground through the tree. And you can be standing on the ground, and you can be zapped from a 14,000 watt power wire hitting a puddle that you're standing in, or your yard is flooded out a little bit and there's water on all the grass and you're standing in it, and all of a sudden the tree comes down, knocks the wire down on the other side of your yard. You can be electrocuted. We've seen it. It's happened. We had it with us with the fire department. We were at a scene. I was at the neighbor's yard. I'm looking at a wire that's got knocked down across the neighbor's yard, and all of a sudden I'm going, my feet are tingling. We were getting electrical shock through the ground and feeling it just because it was all wet. And that's what we were getting through our rubber boots. We were feeling it. So we have to be very, very careful. You do not want to go near any wires, especially if they come down on, if you're in a car, you don't want to get out of the car. Unless you're in a immense danger, then you call 911 and they'll get somebody there to help you. But again, there's not much, if you can get electrocuted just by jumping out of a car that has a high power line on it. There's a lot of dangers and things to be considering, and electricity is no joke. You don't want to be messing with it. If you lose power in your home, or only half your power, you lose a phase, they call it. Sometimes some older appliances tend to start to heat up. If only half the power is going to it, it'll still try to run, but it'll tend to burn up a little bit. Things to look for: overheating or smell of smoke or smell of electrical burning, call 911 immediately. These are things to look out for. You might want to shut off the main in your breaker panel. Know where your breaker panel is for the emergency responders. If there is a problem, know where these things are. Don't just say, I don't know, it could be in the basement, it might be in the garage. Nobody knows your home better than you do. So the quicker we can go and assess something and turn it off and get to your breaker panel, it's important to know these details: where your water shut off is, where your gas shut off if you have gas in your home. These are the things important for the first responders to know. Because if we come and we're trying to protect your property as well, not just life hazard, we're there to try to protect property as much as we can. And you need to have your electrical shut off or things like that. It's easier for us than us searching through your basement in the dark, then if you know where it is, you say it's in the back right corner of my garage and it's over there, there's something in front of it. Okay, we can move it and we can turn the power off ourselves, and we'll try to do that. A common question also is the fire department does not pump out basements. And it's not because we have more important things to do. That's not the reason. The main reason is we're not equipped with the right know-how and the proper know-how to not damage the foundation of a house. Okay, when we pump out water, we use heavy pumps and big pumps, and we'll pump out a basement, and then all that water is coming in from the groundwater, coming up in a storm. And you pump all that water out quickly, it's going to have pressure from the water pushing out on the foundation walls of a house. When you pull that water out quickly, it'll tend to and can cave in the foundation walls and the floor of the house, and it becomes a liability and a safety issue. In a situation like that, if a house basement is flooded all the way to the top, we will remove the people and help you get out of your home. We do not mitigate the hazard of the water in the basement. It's not something that we're capable of doing. It's against policy, and it's really for our own safety and your safety as well. That we will make sure you're safe and you're out. Same thing with a tree into a home. That's not the fire department's job. Once if a tree comes down on your house, and we'll make sure that everybody's out safely, we would notify the Islip fire marshals, who then would notify the Islip building department to take a look and make sure, and then they determine that, not the fire department. We just make sure that you're out and you're safe. Once you're safe, it's up to you as the homeowner then to remove a tree or have it removed. It's not, or something that the fire department is not going to cut a tree up out of your house, because again, we're not professional tree cutters. We are professional in getting you safe. That's it. We're not going to try to cut a tree off of your house that can potentially hurt us or somebody else, or cause more damage than needed. Again, just try to use your common sense, prepare, look at what's around you, utilize the resources around. The websites that are Suffolk County Gov, Islip Town has some fantastic ones. The Weather Service, the Weather Channel has some great information on their websites. I'm trying to think of some good ones. The Sayville Fire Department has some good things and some notes on our website, sayvillefd.org. Suffolk County FRES, Fire Rescue and Emergency Services, has some fantastic information on their website. You'll get that through Suffolk County Gov. So this is common sense. All right. I think I threw a lot of information at everybody. I hope everybody followed along well. I can thank you, and if we have any questions, you can more than welcome to do that now. I'll come off of the screen. If anybody wants to ask any questions or anything they have for me.
Thank you, Chief Rutlinger. That was really helpful. I've got a ton of notes that I was taking during your presentation and stuff that I want to go back home and double check. There is a question that came through our chat, and it is related to trees landing on houses. You touched on this, but this is like a little bit of a spin on that question. If a tree lands on the house, who does the homeowner call to put a tarp on the roof? So do you refer to the fire marshal at that point for Islip Town? How does that happen?
When we have a property damage from the fire department standpoint, we will call the fire marshal because of property damage caused by that. They will respond. The first and most important thing to because I happen to also be a fire marshal for the town of Islip. The first and most important bit of information you can have is your homeowner's insurance. You call them and they will immediately tell you what you need to do. They'll tell you who to call. There are some companies out there, there's salvage companies, and I can tell you from experience, there's a lot of them, board up companies, cleanup companies. They're vultures. They listen to the fire rater. They're like ambulance chasers, and like on the lawyer side. They listen to the scanners, and if they hear an emergency where they might need to, and then they'll just tell the homeowner, we can do this. So let us do this. We do it cheapest. Call your insurance company, and your insurance company will let you know if they want you to use someone that they recommend, or if you can use someone and they'll cover it. Homeowners insurance is going to be your first phone call you want to make in that instance. And they're going to, again, the fire marshal is only going to go there and they're going to document the damage. They'll call if they feel it's necessary. If there was possible damage to the structure of the building, they'll call in a building investigator from the town, and they'll come in and look to see if it's structurally sound. If it's not, they're going to put a placard on it until it's removed by a professional company, and that usually comes under the homeowner. And they'll call their insurance company, and the insurance company will take care of it. I don't know if I roundabout way of answering.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's all that kind of stuff that, you know, you need to know that stuff ahead of time, because when it hits, it's chaotic.
And you don't want it's the worst day of your life, and all your stuff is there in the rain getting wet, and you don't want to be dealing with it, but you don't want to be searching for that phone number. And that goes for any emergency, any type of fire or snow damage, roof collapse, anything, tree into a house, car into a house, any of these things that you might need it, you should have that homeowner's insurance policy, know where it is, know the phone number. And they are going to tell you, they're the ones looking out for you. You're their customer. These board up guys and anybody that comes on the outside, they're not looking out for your best interest. That's the insurance company will. And that's, you want to call them and they might tell you, don't clean anything up yet. Don't try taking the tree down. Don't call the tree company. We want to come out and take pictures and make sure that it's all covered and we get a good, substantial look at what exactly is wrong. And that's because they have their own people that do that. And that's how they determine how much they pay or what they pay and how to go about it. And again, some of the major insurance companies have some great resources online for, and they have like checklists that you can download and print right on your computer of what to look for in an emergency, what information you would want to need. And some of the major insurance companies do have that resources available.
That's great. That's great. I know one of the things that I'm actually doing now is after we had that last cluster of storms that knocked out our electricity, you know, and it was primarily down trees all over Sayville. I ran to Apple, and I actually got there is a case for your iPhone that's a battery. And so I bought an extra battery case, and I now keep that charged. And I learned that through the last storm. I have a generator. My generator failed. So the carburetor
always
died
does.
and my generator failed. So it's even with a generator, it's best to really have as much battery backup as you can. So
Absolutely.
You know, and I know I've seen even on Amazon, there are cell phone chargers that are solar powered. I have one. They're not the quickest, but you can leave that thing out on a windowsill in the sun and let that solar cell charge up. And at least you can charge your phone, you know, that way.
Absolutely.
So,
And another risk I forgot to mention is people will tend to run their car and plug the phone in to charge it. Do not run the car inside the garage. Again, carbon monoxide, the silent killer. It's one of the biggest hazards out there today with our high efficiency and our sealed up homes. Homes today are a lot tighter when they construct them because of energy conservation and requirements that are put on there, better windows, better materials. If you start pumping carbon monoxide, it doesn't have anywhere to go. So there's not a lot of air exchange. And then that is a hazard that we have to worry, and it's becoming more common. That's why it's important to have those carbon monoxide detectors and smoke detectors in your house.
good. Good. Any questions from our audience? Feel free to chat using the chat function. It's usually at the bottom of your screen on Zoom. You'll see kind of a little text bubble with the word chat. You can always click on that and chat questions in if you need to. We can also unmute you if you need to. And you could always just give us a hi sign or text us if you have any questions, any additional questions. The other thing that I've been doing too, honestly, in lines of just staying prepared, is now that the food supplies are close to where they were, things, you know, there are still some weird things that happen where you show up at the store and there's not a cleaner that you need or something like that. When I find things, I'm just trying to buy, I'm not hoarding, but I'm trying to buy just a little extra. So for instance, I go up the Parmalat aisle because that milk can stay for months. And I'll just grab a thing of Parmalat when you can get them, rather than when the storm is announced and everybody's running to the store. And so it's just kind of stocking your pantry ahead of time with that kind of stuff that's not going to go bad when you can get a hold of it, you know. Great. All right. I don't see any additional questions. I would say that was a great comprehensive presentation there, Chief Rutlinger. We really appreciate that. And
Thank you.
as the library, our business is getting information out into the community, and a prepared community is a safer community when events hit. And so we are very thankful for the fire department always being a terrific first responder resource for our community. And thank you for taking care of us and watching
Yep,
out for us.
absolutely. I have the pleasure of leading a very large group of dedicated individuals, and we always tend to come together as a team. And again, we're there 24/7, 365, men and women who are your neighbors and your friends, and they do their regular job all day, and they come in when they're at night, and then when the pager goes off, they're ready to respond, and we're willing and ready to do it. I'm very fortunate that I don't have to worry about much because I have such a good group of dedicated members, and it's really them, and they do a great job, and we're willing to keep doing it. So be safe. And like I always say, if I never have to go to another emergency in my town I live in, I'd be happy with that. But we know that it'll happen, and we're ready to go, and we practice and train hard for it. So thank you guys, and thank you for everything you're doing. These are great classes, and hopefully, if anything ever comes up again, let us know, and we'll put something together.
All right. Thank you very
Okay.
much. Once again, we truly appreciate your help, Chief, and also to the fire department once again. And then for our patrons that have joined us this evening, thank you once again for joining Sayville Library for another community presentation. And we just ask you to check our website, sayvillelibrary.org, for more exciting and informative programs coming up in the near future. Thanks once again for everyone enjoying us, joining us this evening. And thank you, Chief Rutlinger and Sayville Fire Department, for your support. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great night, everyone.
You too.